welcome back to Retro Break. If you saw my video last week, you'll know that I had an amazing time at Play Expo Manchester, and you will also know that I did a little bit of shopping while I was there. So in this video today, I'm going to be showing you all the really cool stuff that I picked up, and then join me afterwards for a look at some of the stalls at the event itself. So let's get started with the Game Boy stuff, because I know you guys love seeing my Game Boy collection. And I actually picked up quite a bit to add to the collection here, so I'm going to quickly go through them now. I have played nearly all the games that I picked up. So the first one here, this was a Japanese only release for the original Game Boy called Flappy Special, and it is a really good game. I actually played this game on my backlit Game Boy Advance in bed the other night, and me and my girlfriend were going through a few of the puzzles in the game. They're incredibly difficult, even though they're only the first few levels in the game, so I have no idea how you're possibly going to manage to get through all 100 and something levels. But I did really enjoy what I played, and apparently it's a port of a very old Japanese PC game, and it never got a release outside of Japan either, so that's Flappy Special for the Game Boy. Next one here, and I really didn't think very much of this game at all. Some of these I just picked up as a little bundle just to add to my Game Boy collection, so I'll quickly go through these next few. The first one is called Splits, which is a really weird looking puzzle game, and I really don't have much of an idea about what I'm actually supposed to be doing, which is kind of a shame because, I don't know, I kind of like puzzle games on the Game Boy, but this one is definitely not a good one. And another game that's definitely not good, this is Soccer. Really don't need to go into any detail about that one. And here's a game that I do already own, of course, but I just wanted to get a copy with a much nicer cover compared to my one, which I'll go and find so you can see the difference. So there you go, for a comparison, there's my, wait for it to focus, there's my original game here, and there's the new one that I picked up. Safe to say it's in a little bit better condition. So I'm very happy to have a good condition version of the game finally. The next one here, and another game that unfortunately isn't very good from what I've played so far. This is called Prince Valiant by Ocean, and I really don't think much of this one. It's kind of a overhead view, top-down action adventure game, I think, but really can't really figure out what to do in it. The next one here, and this one's an arcade classic by Atari. This one is Paperboy. On the original Game Boy, at first I found it quite hard to tell which houses were supposed to get the papers delivered to them, but thanks to playing it on the Game Boy Advance you can change the colour scheme, and I managed to change it to a really good colour scheme which brings out the difference in the different mats for the ones that you're supposed to throw the papers at. So in the end I did really enjoy playing this game, but I think if you were playing it on the original system you would have quite a bit of difficulty figuring out which houses you were and weren't supposed to deliver the papers to, but even so, fantastic game and a great conversion for the Game Boy. And to finish off the Game Boy list here, I picked up two Game Boy Color games. They are Tetris Dx. I'm really amazed that I don't already have this game. I used to have it years ago, but for whatever reason I ended up getting rid of it, so very happy to finally have Tetris Dx again. It's a fantastic version of the original Game Boy Tetris, just with some added colour. And the last game here is Marble Madness, which is a colour-enhanced version of the Game Boy game Marble Madness, which was another Atari arcade game. And this one actually plays really well. There's a little bit of slowdown here and there, but overall, really good port for the Game Boy Color, and I just love Marble Madness. I've played it so many times, so it's just another great addition to my Marble Madness collection. So that was it for original Game Boy. I picked up two Game Boy Advance games. They're nothing super exciting, we just picked them up because there was a big box of GBA games, and I think he said we could have 6 for a tenner or something like that. So I picked up two games from that box. They were Egomania, which is a game that I remember reading about in a very old magazine called Action GBX. If any of you guys remember that magazine, it was a really great read, and it used to come with videos that did previews and reviews of the latest games at the time. And I remember seeing this game on one of the videos or in the magazine, and I really wanted it. And actually the same for this next game here called Tang Tang. And both of these games I was actually very impressed with. They were a lot better than I thought they would be, considering how cheap they are. They're really easy to find games, but I actually enjoyed both of these quite a lot. So that is Egomania and Tang Tang for the Game Boy Advance. The next one here, and this is a system that I don't really buy games for that often. Yes, there is such a thing. This is Tetris for the Philips Cdi. And I have the Cdi sitting down here that's holding all these games up on the wall, so I haven't even opened it up yet. I don't really have a way of connecting the CDI to the capture card, but one day I will get around to playing it, and I've heard that this version of Tetris is a really great version. It was one of the first versions that has different moving backgrounds to Tetris, so I'm really interested in trying it out, and apparently it has a really good soundtrack as well, so very much looking forward to trying that out, although I do need to get one of the nicer controllers for the CDI before I can really play any games on it properly. And now for one of my favourite systems, I picked up a few more SNES and Super Famicom games. Just a few of them. This is one that I've been looking for a long time. This is called Cosmo Gang The Puzzle. So this is another game in the Cosmo Gang series. The first game in the series plays sort of like Space Invaders, but this one's more of a Tetris or Panic Bomber kind of game. It's a really cool action puzzle game where you have to line up the little cosmonaut aliens, and then a blue arrow comes and wipes them all out as you're going down the screen. So it's a really fun game, and it's one that never got released outside of Japan, so it's a really interesting one to pick up. And there's the cart for it as well. And the other SNES game that I picked up is one that I hadn't heard of before, and unfortunately it's one of them games that I picked up on a whim and it didn't turn out to be very good at all. This one's called Pushover, and it's basically some weird platforming version of Dominoes. And I really couldn't get very far in the game because I didn't quite understand what I was doing, so maybe if I spend a bit more time with it in the future, it might become a bit more enjoyable for me, but at the minute I'd say give this one a hard pass. Now for some Sega stuff. I picked up one Sega Saturn game. This was a game that I actually played at the show, and as you can see I haven't had a chance to open this one up yet either, but I know I'm definitely going to enjoy it. This is Spot Goes to Hollywood. I was a big fan of the Spot games on the Mega Drive, but I'd never actually played the Saturn one before. So at Play Expo was the first chance that I ever got to play the Saturn version of Spot, and then after I played it I went around the stalls and tried to find a copy to pick up for myself as well. So very happy to have this, and my friend Jack, who helped me with some of the filming, said that he used to have this game as a kid and he really enjoyed it, so very much looking forward to trying this one out in the near future. And a few more Sega games, a few for the Dreamcast now. And yes, you saw the first one here, Crazy Taxi. No, I never actually had the Dreamcast version of Crazy Taxi. I've only ever owned it on the PS2 and the Gamecube. So I'm very happy to finally have the original Sega version on the Dreamcast, and it plays just as well as I remember. It's one of my favourite arcade games of all time. I was very happy to be able to play the arcade version at Play Expo at NQ64, which is the bar that we went to, if you saw my vlog. So really happy to have Crazy Taxi. Love the series. The only one I have left to get is Crazy Taxi 3 on the original Xbox. And the other two Dreamcast games I picked up, the first one here is called Tokyo Highway Challenge. This was a launch title for the system, I believe, and unfortunately it's not as good as I thought it would be. It's quite slow. I think it's one of them games that you need to play a lot until it actually becomes fun to play. It's one of them games where you have to progress through and upgrade your engine, upgrade your tyres and your wheels and all that, but it definitely looks nice and it plays fairly well, but I haven't really got very far into it. And the last one here, and definitely the most exciting Dreamcast pickup from the event, this one is Giga Wing. And I did actually play this game back in college, but maybe not 100% legit, so I'm very happy to finally have a real copy of Giga Wing, one of my favourite vertical scrolling shooters of all time. So really excited to get this. Now I'd just love to have an arcade stick to play it the way it was meant to be played. And the final game now, only one more, this one. I haven't had a chance to play either because I don't know where my PS1's gone, and the PS3 is a real pain to set up with the capture card. This is Wild 9, and this was a recommendation from Jack as well. He said it's a great game. I have no idea what it's about. If any of you guys have played it, let me know in the comments, but hopefully I'll be able to play it before my next pickups video, and I'll let you know what I thought of it then. And one more thing that's not gaming related, but I just thought it was kind of cool. This is a homemade Game Boy cushion sort of thing, nice foam thing with a Zelda on the front of it. There you go. So very happy to have this. It came from a really good stall, and I'll put a link in the description to her Etsy store so you can go and check out the rest of the stuff that she had for sale, because there was some really cool stuff at that stall. So for anyone who's still watching, I'm just going to be showing a quick look at some of the different game stalls at the event and maybe pointing out a few of the interesting things that I see during this video here. It was great that I had Jack and Callum with me because I could spend a long time actually looking at the stalls rather than filming. So most of this footage comes from Jack and Callum. There you go, you can see them there. So this was the first game stall that we came to, and as you can see in this display case at the front, there was a lot of quite rare and expensive Game Boy games. and there I managed to find the Japanese version of Mario Paint, and there was a whole wall here of Atari 2600 games. Unfortunately, my 2600 console doesn't work anymore, but I was quite tempted to pick one up during the show, but I decided against it just because it would be a pain to carry around for the 2 days and to take back on the train as well. And a bit further down here you can see there's some Neo Geo Pocket games, some Game Gear games, and some Virtual Boy stuff at the end as well. Virtual Boy is a system that I'd really love to collect all of the games for eventually. There you go, you can see there I found 2. There's a baseball game there that I don't actually have already, so maybe in the future if this stalls around at another event I might end up picking that one up. And there I'm looking at a Neo Geo Pocket game. I think it was maybe some sort of Mahjong style game. And here you can see one of my pickups that I showed off earlier, that was Tokyo Highway Racer for the Dreamcast. And now a quick look at some of the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games in boxes, and a few Japanese Gamecube games underneath. It did get quite busy here, else I would have spent a lot longer looking through all the shelves. And you can see here there was hundreds of boxed Super Famicom games. I kind of regret not spending more time looking for this, because I was looking for Tetris Battle Gaiden at the Japanese game store, which I'll see in a minute, but I didn't manage to find it there, but it could possibly have been at this one. And as you can see now, panning across the top of those shelves there, so many different boxed retro consoles, and down on this plastic shelf down the side as well, there's a Japanese N64, which is a system that I'd love to get at some point. Would be really great for getting some import games, because there's a lot of games that came out for the 64 that didn't come out outside of Japan, so that'd be really cool to get one day. And here on this other stall there's a look at a lot of different consoles. There's an Atari 2600, I think, or 7800, and this lovely orange Pikachu N64, that's a Japanese console as well. If I was going to get a Japanese console, I probably would end up getting some sort of special edition, just because it's a bit more unique. And here's a look at the stall where I got that Gameboy Pillow from. There you go, you can see it right there. And if you have a look at my vlog for the event, I did put a link to the Etsy store for that stall in the description, and if I remember I'll put it at the end of this one as well. And here's me having a look at a few Master System and Mega Drive games and some more Dreamcast games there. There's not really that many more Dreamcast games that I need for my collection. One of the main ones I'm after is the Tetris game for it, but apart from that, I'm pretty happy with my Dreamcast collection as it is at the moment. Now here's a game for the Game Boy Color that I'd never actually heard of before, called Metal Walker. I didn't pick it up, it was 15 quid, but it's definitely one that I'll add to my list, because I do enjoy picking up games that I've never heard of before. Because sometimes, sometimes you can get lucky, and as you've seen in this pickups video, sometimes not so lucky. And here's this Japanese game stall that I was looking for that Tetris game on the Super Famicom for, and I'm also having a look here at some of the Japanese Gamecube games. It was a really great stall. Actually, towards the end of the event, I actually ended up sitting on the floor for a while and pulling out all of the boxes that were under the table to really go through everything. It was really great when it had quietened down a bit. We could spend a long time looking through it all. And here's a look at some of the different consoles they had on display at the back. There's a one-piece special edition PlayStation 3 that I saw there. And here's a brief look at some of the stuff that was under the table that we managed to pull out and have a look through all of it. There's Jack having a look at some of the PSP games for sale. Unfortunately for him, a lot of the PSP games ended up being hidden away underneath the stalls for whatever reason. I don't think it's a very popular system at the moment, but that means it's really good to collect for, because a lot of the games would be very cheap. And here's a look at a PlayStation 1 game that I was interested in called R-Types, which seems to be some sort of collection of different R-Type games. I didn't pick it up, but it's one that, as you can see, I was considering for quite a while, but no, I put it back in the box there, and I'm not sure what that game was. Ark the Lad, maybe, but it's not really that good having Japanese RPGs due to the fact, there's a bit of a language barrier. And there's another look at the stall from a different angle. And here's a game that will be very famous to anyone who's watched AVGN. That's the Noah's Ark game for the NES. The good one, not the weird Bible Adventures first person one. And this was a pretty cool area here. They had like arcade marquees that go at the top for different companies, I think they were made out of fabric, so you can sort of pin them to the wall and stuff. I always regret not picking up anything for the game room at these sort of shows. I always just end up buying games, but they do always have a really great selection of sort of ornaments and accessories for game rooms and stuff. So maybe in the future, if there's one a bit closer to home, I might end up picking up some of those accessories. And as you can see at the top there, hopefully, some canvas items with paintings and like retro inspired artwork and things. And here's a quick look at some of the more rare and expensive games at the back. There's some rare Game Boy games there, and a variety of different Game Boy Colors, Game Boy Advance games, and some very, very expensive SNES games. I saw Mega Man 7 there for 150 quid, which, to be honest, I've seen it go for a lot more than that, so that actually wasn't too bad. And there was a few Mega Drive games at the back there as well. One of the Mega Drive games that I'd really like to get, that I always see at the back of these sort of gaming events, is Shinobi 3, and for whatever reason, still to this day, I haven't picked it up, but it's definitely one that I'm looking to get in the future. And here's a quick look at a lot of PlayStation 1 games. As I've said in the past, I'm not a huge fan of the PS1, so I don't really know too much about the system, but if there's any games that you think I should get that I would enjoy, please let me know in the comments down below and I'll definitely check them out. And hopefully at the next event in the future I might spend a bit more time looking at the PS1 games, because it is a system I'd like to play a bit more of in the future. And there's me trying to, but the camera's not really focusing very well, trying to show off a SNES game called Goof Troop, which I've heard is a really good co-op action platformer sort of game. And here's Deadpan Robot, one of my favourite stalls at these sort of events. They sell amazing Game Boy mods, like you can see here, this backlit yellow Game Boy there playing Pokemon Yellow. They always look really cool, and I actually got to try out the backlit Game Boy Color, which is a fairly new thing that's only just been able... There you go, you can see it there. So they've called it the Game Boy Color Lite, and it's actually using a really nice bright LCD screen, and they really look amazing. I'd definitely love to get one at some point in the future, or love to even try and make my own. They do sell kits and instructions, so you can attempt to do your own as well. And here's a look at a few more rare and expensive games at the back of this stall. There's some PS1 games. I didn't quite make out what they were there, but if you see anything interesting during this part of the video, let me know in the comments. And like I said, if you picked any of the games up during the show, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you picked up and what you think of them. It's always really good to see other people's pickups as well. So if you have a gaming channel and you go to any of these sort of events and do your own pickups videos, definitely let me know. I'd love to go and check them out and get a taste for what other people enjoy picking up at these sort of events. And there was a quick look at some Perla Bead artwork and Link's Awakening for the original Game Boy in the box. I don't actually have the original Game Boy version of Link's Awakening anymore. I used to, but for whatever reason I've ended up losing it over the years, and I only have the Game Boy Color version, the DX one. And here's me showing off another Game Boy game that I've never heard of. This one was called Football, but for some reason I didn't pick it up. It was only a £5, so maybe I should have. If I'm going for the full set, I'll end up getting it eventually anyway. And I just noticed there in that display cabinet that was on the floor, on the table, sorry, there was Pro Protector for the Mega Drive, which if you saw my collection video of the games that I'm aiming to get for my collection, that's one of them. But it is very expensive. I didn't see the price there, but I'm guessing it was over £100 or thereabouts anyway. And here's flicking through a few more Game Boy games, and you didn't see what I picked up there, but that was the Marble Madness game that I just showed off at the end of this video. And this was a really cool stall actually. They had all these games blue-tacked into these sort of folding plastic sheets that you could pull out and have a look through. So if you see anything else interesting on there, let me know. So I really hope you enjoyed this quick overview of some of the gaming stalls at Play Expo Manchester. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you were at Play Expo, let me know in the comments some of the games that you picked up during the show, or just some of the games that you've picked up recently that you'd like to share with everyone. So thank you so much for watching. As always, please comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next week for another episode. Goodbye!